T-minus 50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Can I just start this whole thing off by saying, well, first of all, no, I won't. We'll start this whole thing off by saying hello, because that's a proper way to start things off when you are talking to people. So hello. Hello to you all. I hope you are all having a wonderful Sunday. I hope nobody is too hungover when they're hanging out here today. I'm not. I am overly tired today because it was a very late night. UFC fights on last night. Won a couple dollars, did not win. So for those of you that don't listen, I wish you would. I do a show called the Weigh-Ins Brothers, Weigh-Ins Bros. Myself and my partner in crime from the Wanderers team, little Brady Wedham. We do a show where we talk about UFC, we talk about combat sports, we talk about boxing, talk about bare knuckle. Everything south of domestic abuse, we'll talk about it. And last night there was a UFC 292 where the main event was Aljamain Sterling losing his title. I know, spoiler alert, to Sugar Sean O'Malley. And I did win a couple of dollars, but if you watch the show or listen to the show, I should say, teaser, spoiler alert coming up. I place a $1 parlay bet on all of the fights that could win me. All right. Yesterday's bet, the payout off of a $1 bet, and we're talking winner and method of victory, not just money line stuff. We're talking how they win. And on an 11 fight parlay, $1 would have won 49,000 and change. I mean, what if I couldn't use $49,000 right about now? But alas, I will be having to go back to the shoot job, the real job, next week or the week after, whatever. I was off 4. I mean, you only need to be off 1. Look, who cares? You lost 1. You lost the whole thing. Stupid. Tell me you were off by 4. That seems really dumb. But if you think about it, the 4 that I was off, I was not off by the winner. I picked every single winner correctly. Super proud of that. But you know what that gets you? That gets you a hand job by yourself. Nothing more. That's it. You don't get shit. Bupkis. Nada. Nothing. The 4 that I was off were still the winners, just the wrong method of victory. So, for example, I picked Ian Gary to win last night by knockout, and he decided to beat up Neil Magny, literally beat him up for 3 rounds. Could he have gotten the finish? Yeah, probably. But he decided to beat him up instead. So things like that. Right winner, wrong method. Nothing is more of a piss off than that. But I still came away with a couple $100 for some of my other bets that happened. So all in all, not a bad Saturday night, other than the fact that, it ends at about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And seeing as how I'm not much of a sleeper anyways, when your boy texts you at 4:30 in the morning, shout out Custom, you piece of shit, texts you at 4:30 in the morning and says, hey, you awake? Oh, why are you awake at this time? Well, because you just fucking texted me, you asshat. And then you can't fall back asleep, so you just kind of get up. And then you start your day. And yet here we are. Here we are, halfway through the day for myself over here on the Eastern time slot. For all of you on the Pacific time slot, thank you so much for joining us as well. And enjoy the rest of your day. Your day is just getting going. This is the one thing on Sundays coming forward, the one thing that I do not like about living on the East Coast that I loved so much more as a kid living on the West Coast, and that's on Sundays because that's football day. And there really is nothing worse than like your football day doesn't start out here until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've got 1 o'clock game, 4 o'clock game, 8 o'clock game. Ugh. So some of those games are late. But you're on the Pacific side. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's nice. You get up, you get to have some breakfast, boom, start watching football. Then you've got a good barbecue going for your lunchtime for afternoon games, and it's fantastic. That's really the way to go. 10 a.m. starts. All right, Tiff? Yeah, I get it. 10 a.m. Ha, ha, ha. Rub it in. Rub it all the way in. Donkey Kongington, cheers. Y'all, what's up to you? American Cupcake, hello. Thank you for joining us as well. And everybody else who's listening on all of the other stuff that I have no idea how to check those chats anyways. Is what it is. So, now that I've wasted a little bit of your time saying hello, oh, I forgot to say at the beginning, can I possibly say that the music for my intro is the most nondescript piece of shit I could have possibly picked when making that thing? So I think I'm going to change that up. I'm going to change that up in the near future. We'll switch that up. If you have not shared this with your friends, please do so. Click that like, click that subscribe. Let everybody know about it. Be much appreciated. Things are taking off. Things are happening. And I appreciate all of that. Appreciate all of the love and support from all of you. And now let's get down to it, shall we? This is episode 6. Wow. Episode 6 of my TIDtalk. And how many will there be? I don't know. Probably 100 because, there's always something that I forget, and it's something that I can talk about, something that I can go back on. A lot of stuff has happened. And it got me to thinking last time when we were talking, I was talking and you were listening. You know what I mean. Don't judge. And I said that next time on episode 6, we were going to be talking about this gentleman right here. This gentleman right here is my Uncle David. He was the youngest one of the family. He was the baby on my mom's side and passed away at a very young age. But we said we had some stories about him, and my Uncle David was the freest spirit out of the entire family. And by youngest, I mean he was only, I think, 8 years older than me. You know what I mean? Most of my family, you got to remember, my mom was only 18 when she had me, which in my family, on that side, is what we call a late bloomer. Because it seems like everybody else that had kids on that side of the family, I've got an aunt, love her to death. She is one of my most favorite human beings in the entire world. Always has been, always will be. My Aunt Anita, she's only 10 years older than me. She's already managed to make herself a great-grandmother. Yeah. She's a stud. Goddamn boss. But my Uncle David, who we were talking about, he was the baby of the family. And my Uncle David lived in Washington around us for a while. My Uncle David had won a severe lawsuit against the state of Texas, if I'm not mistaken, for an accident in a vehicle where he was cruising one night and went through a construction area that was not, there's no signage, no lights, no pylons, no nothing. Just the road ended. Boop, done. Off this edge he goes. Big crash. Ends up having to have surgery. His hand's all mangled, doesn't have the proper function of it or whatever. So he ends up winning, at that time, a pretty sizable lawsuit from the state of Texas. He takes that money and he ventures up to Washington State to hang out with his oldest sister and her kids. That's me. That's where I come in. The older sister being my mom. So it seems like Washington, for a while there, was the new Mexico. If you needed to get away, that's where you went. You went and hid out in the Pacific Northwest someplace, because pretty easy to do. And my Uncle David moved up there, got his settlement. And I can remember one time he had taken me and he was going to go buy a new vehicle. Had to get a new vehicle. And he really wanted to get a Cadillac. I don't know why. I mean, back then, you know, outside of European motors that they might have had back in the early 80s, I guess it would have been. Cadillac was the shit. That's what you wanted to get, was a Cadillac. So he wanted to get himself a Cadillac. And this is the first story that I'm going to tell, because this whole thing is going to be leading up to some crazy karma on my end. And I want to explain to you all how much of a piece of shit as a child I really was. I was a pain in the ass. I think a lot of that had to do with, you know, no real parental figure around. My mom was constantly working. The revolving door of quote, quote, dads that went through our place was not really a thing. So it's kind of left to my own vices. And my own vices kind of, you know, dictated that I just was a piece of shit kid. Now, I wasn't a bully or anything like that. In fact, there's a story coming up that I'm going to tell you guys about a bully that we had at school, in elementary school. But make no mistake about it, I did my fair share of being a dick. And that's the thing about these stories today. So I can remember it was grade 5, and I'm in Washington. And the school had just put in one of these gigantic, look like Lincoln logs, but not like the ones that you see in people's homes in their backyards. This was like a legit, like, monster, oiled up wooden gym set, whatever your play set, I guess. You know, it had the big cross members with like the tire swings with 3 chains coming down, and the tire at the bottom of it in a circle instead of like hanging like, you know, some Tom Sawyer Huck Finn shit. And big ladders going up the one side and a slide down the thing. Because you got to remember, this is still elementary school. You know, you had your tetherball court, which I don't even know if that's really a thing anymore. You had that over there. But this play set, they put in all of this money and threw down chips and wood chips. And this thing was beautiful, amazing. And on the one side of this play set was one of those cargo nets. One of those big cargo nets that went from the ground all the way up. And, you know, that was the funnest stuff to climb because it had some wiggle and you had to actually like be pretty good at climbing stuff, I guess, but not too good. Because, I mean, let's face facts. This thing's set for, you know, and they wouldn't let the little kindergartners and first graders go on this thing. The teachers wouldn't. And more importantly, the older kids wouldn't. The grade 5s and the grade 6s, you know, the coolest kids in the school, so to speak, wouldn't let anybody go on there. Because at the top of this is where you just kind of sat, hung out, because you were cool. You're a badass. You're a fucking 5th grader. Sunday, Jenna. Hello. Hello to you as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you and the frog are doing quite well today on this Sunday. Enjoying your weekend. Because everybody knows it's back to work. Back to work tomorrow, Monday. Or maybe you work through the weekend and, you still don't get a day off through the week. It's always been good times. So everybody used to sit across the top of this, all the cool kids did anyways. Everybody used to sit across this thing and just kind of hang out on recess. And I can remember this is your first instance of one of the stories about how much of a piece of shit I was. Even in 5th grade, I carried a knife. Now, I'm a firm believer that every human, but more importantly, every male from the beginning of time, and as soon as they're old enough to know not to cut themselves, should carry a pocket knife. I still believe that to this day. I would show you the pocket knife that I normally carry, but I'm in my home and also not wearing any pants. So, but everybody always carried a pocket knife. And I carried a pocket knife from grade 4, I think, probably. Grade 4, maybe grade 5. And not one of these like massive ones, just a little pocket knife. Might even been a Swiss Army knife because those were cool as shit back in the day. It was like the Batman utility belt of knives for a child. Oh my goodness. I don't know why you ever had to have a fucking toothpick on a Swiss Army knife. But that was a different story altogether. But I sat up there. I used to sit up there at the top of this cargo net. This big black cargo net with like 1.5-inch rope. This whole thing was made up of, 6x6 squares, and you'd climb up this thing to get to the top of the walkway area, not the top of it, of this playset. There's this area for us to sit, and I would sit there, minding my own business, kinda, but I would take my pocket knife out, slowly cut away at the top little pieces of this rope. And not all the way through. That was never my plan, but you monopolized the space so much that nobody could get up there, so nobody knew what the hell you were doing. Nobody knew what you were doing up there. You were just all hanging out, you and your, best 2 or 3 friends, the other little assholes that you hung out with. And I sat up there and I would cut away at these ropes every recess, every day for like, a week straight, maybe more, maybe 2 weeks straight. Because, you couldn't just hack away at this thing. You had to just kind of like casually, nonchalantly while doing something else. And you're cutting through this thing and hope for the best. Because the plan in my head and my other delinquent friends, the plan was to then vacate the area. And as soon as you were able to vacate the area, to allow the young kids to play in that area, they would take full advantage of it. Like none of the kids would go near the wall where the guys, some of the kids were playing handball because that's where the older kids hung out as well. So my plan was to, as soon as I was able to move away from this thing, we would go and we would watch the little kids hit this net running to try to climb it. And hopefully it would hold them long enough before breaking in the middle and sending the whole net down and, more than likely probably injuring a child. That wasn't my concern at the time. I just thought it would be really funny to see a kid fall through that net and take the whole thing down and cause chaos. It's really what it was all about. It was just causing chaos, just being a little piece of shit kid. So sure as shit, that's exactly what happened. I would cut through this thing, and at the end of it, another little kid, I think it was 2 of them, hit this net because they were going to have a race up the sides to see who got up there first. And we were already gone. We had moved on. We were doing other things. The next plan of attack, of which we got in trouble for. Big trouble. But these 2 kids hit this net and they went running and they jumped on this net and they started climbing. They got about 3 in, 3 of these squares in. Boom. The whole thing comes crashing down. And we start laughing right away, which was not the smartest move because, kind of gives it away as to who did this whole thing, right? I mean, we're grade 5, ladies and gentlemen. Not exactly the smartest kids. There's no Mensa cards being handed out in grade 5. That's for damn sure. So we got into a little bit of trouble for that. But we denied it, and they couldn't prove that it was us because there was no cameras. But we just got in trouble, and the school opted to pay for it rather than call our parents or anything like that. It was much more lenient with what you would get away with and how you disciplined your kids back then. I think that's because a lot more teachers took into consideration that they were the ones that were actually raising most of these kids, myself, back then. I used to have a 6th grade teacher who was also a teacher of 5th grade because they would split it up. And classes back then you would have like, so your math teacher was also your science teacher, stuff like that. They did 2 types of courses, switch them up through the day. And I had a teacher there who would hustle. He would hustle the kids every Friday. There was no learning. Everybody, if we wanted to read a book or whatever, cool. But he would play the kids in chess. And you wanted to play a game of, checkers. My bad. Play the kids in a game of checkers. And if you wanted to play checkers against him, it was fine, no problem. But you never played for money, but he always played for a Snickers bar. And he would hustle the kids for Snickers bars. I swear the amount of Snicker bars that this guy had, he probably died from diabetes. In fact, he definitely lost a foot. There's no doubt about it. Had another teacher back then the math and science teacher on Fridays. Fridays was no learning Fridays. There was nothing going on. He would read these choose your own adventure books. And this is where I first learned about those things. And, you're reading along. And if you want to do this, turn to page 13. If you want to do this, turn to page 26. These choose your own adventure books. Huge popular. They had all these different ones because it came in like a catalog. You know what I mean? Almost like an encyclopedia, a bunch of different ones. And he'd let us choose which one we wanted to hear as he would read to us. We're in school learning how to read. And he's like, nah, y'all have had a tough week. I'm going to read to you like fucking children. Donkey Kongington says, funny, Tid. I'm not wearing any pants either. That is, you know what? That is the best way you could possibly spend a Sunday. I recommend it to everybody. If you're listening right now, live, take your pants off. Hang out. Fuck it. Take your tops off. Take your hats off. Get comfortable. If you're listening to this through the week or while driving, maybe leave your pants on. If you're at work, definitely take your pants off. They appreciate that. It shows initiative. It shows artistic integrity and abilities. So please, by all means, at work, boop, pants off. All right? Tiff says, pants off, dance off. I mean, the only thing better than rocking out with your cock out is jamming out with your clam out. Oh, come on. Who says those things? Anyways. So we would get into a lot of trouble at this school. One of the biggest things that I got in trouble for, this is all before grade 6. One of the biggest things that I ever got in trouble for was, and not the biggest one, I ended up having the police come to the school twice. Once was just regular cops. And that's because we were out at recess one time. We were playing football. And I was in grade 5, and one of the grade 6 kids was a bit of a dick. Nobody really liked him. He's a bit of a bully, right? He didn't like the fact that when he was carrying the ball and somebody ended up like pushing him harder than he wanted to because he couldn't play tackle. It was all just touch. And so he comes up behind one of these other kids and pushes him like full check from behind, super hard shove in the back, one of those ones that like makes your body turn into the letter C, only it's backwards, like just cracks this kid. And I didn't like it because the kid happened to be a friend of mine. And this guy was just hated by everybody, but nobody said anything because he was a big grade sixer, right? Tough kid, apparently. Well, I grabbed the kid and turned him and gave him a shove. And then he came at me, and I grabbed him by the back of the head, like behind the neck, shoved his head down, and put him in a front face lock. Now, a front face lock might have been more like a choke, but it was a front choke. And I had him. And I was a tall kid. I wasn't a strong kid. I had like lanky forearms, really good for getting into those tight crevices in the front of the neck. Really good for choking people out. And I grabbed him in this front choke. And I started lifting him up and swinging him. I'm literally got him by the head and I'm swinging him. And he's out. I can feel that he's out, but I'm snapped. See, you just black out. Even as a kid, I didn't have this shit under control. And I keep swinging him. Finally, I let him go. He collapses on the ground. Teachers at this point are, making their way over. They're clearing it up because all these kids are circling around. It's seeing what happened to the bully kid. Just as that ends, or that happens, the recess bell hits and everybody's got to go back to their classrooms. Tracy says, Blink starts off one of their songs with "Take Your Pants Off." So I sang that. Yeah. You know what? Sometimes you just hear things in a certain voice. Donkey Kong said, I had the Blink t-shirt that said "Take Your Pants Off" and jacket as a teen. If you still have it, rock that shit. Never forget the good stuff from when you were a teen. Rock it. So recess ends, and we've all got to go back to our classrooms. And I'm like, all right, guess I'm not in trouble. And sure enough, we are 5 minutes into, the next class starting. And there's a call over the intercom to the teacher, Mr. Ball. And it says, you please send Chris Hill to the principal's office. And I'm like, that's me. And all the kids right away, everybody knew what it was for. Everybody knew what was up. So I go, and you go into where the secretary sits in the office, and all of the kids that were going to like gym, they were going to the cafeteria, auditorium, gymnasium was all in the same room, same space, which was right across from where the principal's office was. And so I'm sitting there in the chair, and you got the big glass window, and every kid walking by on their way to, gym class, however many that was or whatever, like stops and like literally claps because the bully of the school had gotten beat up. I wasn't some popular kid by any means. I couldn't tell you who, more than 2 or 3 of these kids were that went to that school. Even now, I don't remember their fucking names. But I'm sitting there, and, all of a sudden you get called in the principal's office, and then you go into the principal's office, and the principal is talking to me, telling me the gravity of the situation. And just as he starts to talk to me about that, 2 police officers come walking into the principal's office. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in real big trouble now because, grade 5, you still have this image that police officers, holy shit, if they show up, it's bad news. It's not like now. Cop shows up now, you can kiss my ass. So these 2 cops show up, and they're sitting there telling me about how close I was to possibly killing this young man because I wouldn't let him go. Now, an ambulance did have to come. to get him checked out. And his parents were super mad, and they threatened to, to sue the school apparently. And my mom was called, and nothing ended up coming from it. Cooler heads prevailed. A couple of kids get into it. Dude was fine, But the fact that cops came for this thing to try to scare something into me where I shouldn't be fighting, it's like, I didn't pick the fucking fight. I was just standing up for my friend who was getting bullied by the bully. So it was kind of confusing to me as to but obviously I'm thinking to myself, all right, kids, you got to do the right thing here. And cops are scary. They had guns, handcuffs, and nightsticks. And as a child, that's not exactly what you need to deal with. As an adult, handcuffs and nightsticks can still be fun. Gunplay, not so much. I'm not that weird. So they leave. I get in trouble from my parents, blah, blah, blah. Not that big of a deal, really. And off we go. Now, the second time that the cops ended up coming to that school, it wasn't just these two officers, these two beat officers in their blues. Oh, no. The second time the cops show up at this school, it was a SWAT team. And you're probably asking yourself, why the fuck would a SWAT team show up to a kid's school, an elementary school? Well, let me tell you. Outside in that playground area was also next to the field, big field for, soccer, baseball, whatever else, running. It's usually running. Elementary school kids, that's all they do is, go run some laps. Kick a ball around, run some laps. Well, along the one side of it was a row of houses. On the other side of it was the street. Now, in that row of houses, between the houses, there was a fence, obviously, because they didn't, want people, just kids wandering into people's backyards. And then there was a line of trees, very heavy amount of trees that went down there just for privacy. You couldn't see the houses. Houses couldn't see onto the field where the kids were. And that's where some of us used to hang out as well. And now we're in grade 6 at this point. We rule the elementary school. Whoop, whoop. I don't even know what that means. But there always seems to be some kind of hierarchy thing when you're going to school, especially in the States, because you have 3 sets of schools. You start off at the bottom, you work your way up to the top. So for elementary school, that's grade 6. And then you go to junior high, start at the bottom again, work your way to the top. That's grade 8. Then you go to high school, start your way at the bottom, grade 9, work your way up to grade 12 or grade 13 for some places, which is silly if you ask me. So I was in grade 6 along with my friends, and so we were the cool kids now. And we used to hang out. This one time we're hanging out in that wooded area. And for the most part, we didn't really do anything. We just had our knives and carved into trees and, threw pine cones at one another and just didn't want to be out on the playground. You know what I mean? But the greatest time of year was always when you could get your hand on some fireworks. You could get your hands on fireworks. Firecrackers were fantastic, but what was even cooler back then was bottle rockets. Bottle rockets were the shit. They're great. As a kid, are you kidding me? An exploding firecracker on a stick that flies? Come on. It's fantastic. So we would sit off in these trees, and this one day, one of the kids, not me, because I didn't have any fucking money, one of the rich kids had brought a bunch of bottle rockets to school. And so we sat up in the trees, and one day on recess, at lunch recess, because that was the longer recess, all of your other, you had a 30 and 2 15s probably, same as your work schedule stuff. Carissa, good morning to you as well. So nice of Tiff to share this link. Tid is a great guy. Happy to support. Well, thank you very much, Carissa. And absolutely thank you. Thank you to Tiff for sharing this on it for everybody. I mean, it is afternoon for some people. Yeah, slept in. That's what Sundays are about, Carissa. Sleep in. Enjoy. If you can, man, enjoy that. So this kid brings his bottle rockets. Yeah, it's lunchtime, and we decide to go into the woods and shoot off some bottle rockets. And not just like, shoot them off out into the field. No. It's much funnier, much greater, many more laughs if you fire these bottle rockets at the little kids. If you get a chance as an older, now I'm the bully kid, right? In grade 6. I wasn't beating up kids, but we were just, innocently shooting bottle rockets at these kids. Well, before one of the teachers, because you usually had like one teacher out there, they would rotate, who had to go out onto the playground to keep an eye on the kids, which they really didn't keep an eye on us because, number one, I was able to cut through a fucking net day after day after day until it collapsed. And number two, I was out there shooting bottle rockets at the other kids from the woods like it was Apocalypse Now or something. Here I am pretending it's fucking Vietnam, and I'm launching bottle rockets at innocent fucking kids. Well, one of the people in the houses behind the place had called the cops, thinking that there was gunshots at the elementary school. So when that happens, that's right, they send out the SWAT team. Now, the SWAT team, by the time they had gotten there, the teacher had seen that where the bottle rockets had come from. And, of course, we got yanked out of the trees, scolded. That was it until the SWAT team showed up. And that was when we got into real trouble. Because there's nothing worse than seeing the SWAT vehicle show up and dudes flying out with their guns. Oops. This isn't just a couple of beat cops. This was an actual fucking SWAT team that showed up because some old person thought that bottle rockets sounded like guns. Well, I mean, it wasn't 4th of July, because if it was July, we wouldn't have been in school, right? Just some leftover stuff. So why would there be fireworks going off? Always fireworks going off. It's goddamn United States of fucking America. Coolest thing was we used to go out to, you'd find somebody who had an older brother that would drive, and they'd take you out to the Indian reservation. And then you'd get the real good stuff like the M80s and, 160s and half a fucking stick of dynamite or whatever else it was, blow stuff up. So needless to say, the SWAT team was not too happy with the children on that one. Now, thankfully, again, there was no charges. It's just kids pulling pranks. And when you're in grade 6, grade 5, grade 6, you're in elementary school. I mean, unless you downright kill somebody, it's the optics of sending a little kid like that to jail for fireworks and making it into the news because of it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I mean, it didn't happen with us. Now, we weren't stupid enough to like some of these kids and take a gun to school or something like that, just fireworks. No big deal. So this is kind of some of the stuff that I was doing in those ages. So back to my Uncle David, who had moved, like I said, he had won a settlement from a lawsuit of the state of Texas and moved to Washington State and decided that he wanted to get a Cadillac. And so he took me with him to get a Cadillac, or look at some cars anyways. We're in Spokane and we're walking around, and he goes to this car dealership. It's kind of downtown area. And he's over there looking at some of these vehicles, and he's talking to the sales guy, and I'm just kind of wandering around looking at other vehicles. And I hop into this really, really cool looking Jeep. It's got a convertible top. Jeeps are fucking rad. So I hop into this thing. And back then, everybody kept the keys. When you go to a dealership, the keys were always, they weren't inside, right? Keys are always on the visor. It's always a set of keys on the visor. Somebody would go out there, at the end of the day, take all the keys out of the vehicles, right? Lock them all up, just like you're locking up the entire business. And then in the morning, they'd go back out there and put the keys back in. So you didn't have to worry about looking for keys, Looking back on it now is probably how a lot of cars got stolen from the car lots. But that's just the way that it was. So I hop into this Jeep. Anybody who knows anything about Jeeps, this is way before any Jeep was an automatic. These are all standard, stick shift. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm inside of it, and I've got the steering wheel, and I'm pretending like, yeah, this is super cool. Love to be driving this thing around one day. And I reach up to the visor, and sure as shit, boom, there they are. The fucking keys to this thing. Well, the only thing that better than pretending that you're driving this thing is turning on the stereo, right? Or seeing what it sounds like. Big meaty tires on this thing, right? It's Jeep, 4-wheel drive. My mom at the time had a Bronco that we used to go 4-wheel driving in, take it out to some of the dunes, some of the areas. But I didn't, but that Bronco, automatic. Every vehicle I'd ever been in at that point, automatic. And I knew how a car worked, right? Wasn't an idiot of a child. But I did not know anything about a clutch or how a standard stick shift automobile worked. So I grab the keys out of the visor. They fall down into my lap. I grab them. I stick the keys into the ignition. I give it that first turn. Goes that click. Boom, stereo comes on. I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty good. All right, let's start this thing up and see what it's like. And I give that key a turn. Now, when I give this key a turn, I don't have my foot on the clutch. For all I knew, that was just a second brake. The fuck is that third pedal for? And anybody who knows anything about when you get into a vehicle that is a standard, a stick shift, and you turn that key, and if you don't have your foot on the clutch, right, it's going to make a jump. And that's exactly what this Jeep did, is it made a gigantic jump forward. Now, thankfully, because the Jeep was not facing out onto the road, right? It was running parallel with the street that the car dealership was on. So it didn't go out into the street, where, that could have been bad news. No. Instead, it went forward right into the side of one of the other vehicles on this car lot. And it got it good because this was a Jeep, had a nice big bumper on it. It wasn't like it hit it at like 20 miles an hour or something like that. But it jumped forward enough to, make a sound. Boom. It hits this thing. And my uncle, thankfully, is over on the other side of the parking lot or the car lot talking to one of these dealers. And I casually, after that happens, I turn the key, boom, jumps into the side of this car. I'm like, oh, fuck. Well, I'm not sticking around to get in trouble for this. Right? At this age, I've already gotten into enough fucking trouble for the stuff recently. I wasn't about to get shipped off to military school, or as my mother used to threaten all the time, sold to the gypsies. I don't even know if that's a thing with some of you, that your parents ever threatened to sell you to the gypsies. I mean, that's a pretty bold claim, thinking the gypsies would have wanted me anyways, because I was clearly trouble. But wow, to say that I'm just going to sell you. Okay. So Carissa says, yes, my mom did. See, exactly. The fuck. Now, here's the other thing. When you say that, we all knew what gypsies were, but there was none in our town. So, like, how is it that our moms or our dads or our parents or whoever had these ties with this gypsy child buying ring? How is it? Like, is it handed out at the hospital? Hey, if you ever want to get rid of that kid, if that kid gets to be too much trouble for you, just give us a call at this number and we'll send a group of gypsies over right away to, assess what the child is worth. We'll give you fair market value for that kid, but there will be paperwork to sign and you'll never see that child again. I can't imagine trying to terrify a child like that. Yeah, Tracy says, I was too afraid to be anything other than an angel. Well, Tracy, you forgot to put liar, because no way in hell every child was an angel. I don't care how afraid you were. You did bad stuff. Come on, let's hear it. What'd you do? Carissa says she had secret gypsy ties. Uh-oh, that's scary as hell. But that was always the thing, right? So I knew that I did not want this to happen because, again, I was just afraid of it. Even though my mom, all 5'6" of her, 125 pounds soaking wet if she had 25 pounds of bricks in her fucking pockets. But she's a full-blooded German, redheaded full-blooded German, fiery Scorpio, not afraid to hit you with a baseball bat kind of woman. And if you've listened to any of these other episodes, you know the kind of shit that she is capable of doing. And if you haven't, go back and listen to them. Please like, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. So that wasn't something that I wanted to have to deal with. So as soon as I turn the key, boom, Jeep jumps into the other vehicle, smash, right into the door, right into the side of it. I turn the Jeep back off. I take the keys back out. I put the keys back up in the visor. I open the door and I hightail it. Boom, start running. Well, the thing is I've got to run right past where my uncle is to get out of here and over to the other side street to beat it. And I go running past him. And he's like, where are you going? I'm like, I got to go. And just keep on running until I'm out of sight, which is literally just like around the corner of the building. If you can't see me, you can't catch me. That kind of mentality. They were going to chase me down. So all of a sudden, my uncle, he's like, what? Apparently, he tells the dealer, I got to go deal with my nephew. See you later. Well, nobody heard this at this point or seen anything. So my uncle catches up to me and he's like, what the fuck is your problem, little dude? And I proceed to tell him in this, scared fucking voice about how I got into the Jeep and I just wanted to hear how it sounded. And I wanted to hear the motor. And so I put the key in the ignition and I didn't know that you had to hold down. What is this other pedal? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know anything about this stuff. And I just turned the key and the whole vehicle jumped and it smashed into the side of the thing. And I didn't want to get in trouble. So I put the key back where I got it because I didn't want to get in any trouble. And I got out and I ran because it's the only thing I knew how to do is I had to run because mom's going to find out and she's going to beat my ass. And my uncle just starts laughing. He starts laughing his ass. I'm like, it's not funny. I'm going to get in so much trouble. Stop it. He's like, how would your mom find out? And I stopped. It's like, oh, yeah. And I knew right then and there, my uncle wasn't a stooge. He wasn't going to rat me out. Right? Cool dude. Slightly older than me. But an adult. So I knew I was safe. Smash a Jeep in a parking lot, no problem. Off we go. Now that tie with me and my uncle would also, continue on. My uncle bought a house. And when he bought this house, it was like an old house that when they painted the outside of the house, they basically took a a spray gun and painted everything. One color. The siding, the trim, the windows, painted it all. They didn't bother to, tape off the windows before painting it. They just painted it. Done. And so my uncle hired me to go around with a razor blade, one of those, razor blade paint scrapers, and clean all the windows on the outside. This is a big old house with a lot of windows. But yeah, cool, no problem. He was going to pay me a couple of bucks that I could spend on whatever I wanted to spend it on. More importantly, this is when I learned how to drink, or not drink for that matter, because I clearly wasn't good at it. So we're over there, and I'm cleaning off the windows. My mom's at work, so my uncle's, he's the guardian. He's the man in charge. And he's got me to work, and then we finish up, and we're sitting around his place, and it's probably about, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And he asks me if I'd like something to drink. And I said yes. But the problem is that he didn't have anything to drink as far as, kids' drinks go. He had beer. He had water. He had vodka. He had rum. And he wasn't going to feed me alcohol because, that's just not cool. Unless I reassured him, as I did, that, no, I drink at home all the time. It's no problem. He's like, what? I'm like, oh, yeah, I drank already. Now, me and drugs and alcohol, lying about them at such a young age, crazy. Smoked on my first joint when I was 4 years old. People that I smoked it with will remain nameless. No, they won't. It was my aunt and her husband. And they were babysitting me at 4 years old, and they said they were smoking a joint because they were teenagers at the time. And I was like, can I have some? And they're like, not a chance, little dude. And I said, why? My daddy smokes joints with me all the time. Now, if you've listened to any of the back stories and you know the stories about my dad, that's not that hard to believe that he would be the kind of person to smoke a joint with a 4-year-old. So they'll let me have a hit off of this joint. No big deal. Just one hit. As a 4-year-old, I don't know anything about inhaling. I'm not sitting around getting high, listening to fucking Grateful Dead albums or anything like that, But they said specifically, you do not tell this to your grandmother at all. I'm like, no problem. Because they knew that later that night I had to go back to grandma's place. Sure as shit, we go walking through the door at grandma's. And I go running up to her right away. What's the first thing you think I said to her was? Not hi, Grandma. Nope. First thing I say to Grandma is, Grandma, I smoked a joint. And my grandmother says, you did? With who? And she's like, got this kind of like inquisitive, but mad voice to her. And I can see my aunt is there, and she's just like, oh, fuck, you're going to fucking bury me, kid. Like, what the hell? And without missing a beat, I look at my grandma and I said, with my dad. My dad smokes joints with me. So at that age, I learned very young what not being a stooge and how great it can greatly, I should say, affect your relationship with your family. I wasn't going to stooge out my aunt. Nope. But I'll put it on my dad. So already at that point, I knew that he wasn't a good dude. So I knew that this past stuff with being at the car lot My uncle wasn't going to say anything to anybody, but he was probably going to let me drink. And that's cool. Let's go. Let's get after it. So he proceeds to pour me a glass of Bacardi 151 Black Bat high octane jet fuel rum. Because we also came from that family of, oh, you think you can smoke? All right, smoke this whole pack of cigarettes. Like I had told before, when I found a can of chewing tobacco, oh, you think you can enjoy chewing tobacco? Put that entire can of chewing tobacco in your mouth. So my uncle was bound and determined that he was going to try to teach me a lesson as well with all of this. And he says, I'll pour you a drink. And he grabs me one of these, these old school, like plastic tumbler glasses, not like a highball glass, but like a tall tumbler glass that, you drink Kool-Aid out of and shit like that. And he fills this fucking thing with rum. And he hands me a beer to chase it. Now, looking back on it, it might have been trying to kill me. Who knows? I mean, it certainly could have. Because I drank this stuff. And we're just sitting in the living room. He didn't have any furniture or anything like that. So we're sitting on the floor and I'm up against the wall, and I'm drinking on this glass of thing. And I don't even know how to drink. I don't know the ramifications of any of this stuff. You just drink. I know how to drink Kool-Aid. I know how to drink water. I know how to drink milk. Just drink it like that, right? So that's how I started drinking it. And it tastes fucking horrible. Still, to this day, I do not drink rum. Unless I'm on vacation and that's all that they fucking have. And then I regret being on vacation at a place that doesn't have tequila. So I'm drinking this Bacardi 151 proof Black Bat rum. And I'm washing it down with a beer. A Rainier beer. Because that's all he drank in there. And I was fine. I'm sitting on the ground and I'm fine. I'm getting a little tipsy and blah, 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 but I feel fine. No problem. But then eventually you got to go pee. Well, if you got to go pee, the first step to that is getting up off the ground. And so I did. And I get up off the ground and all of a sudden everything. Stop the world. I want to get off. Everything starts spinning. And it's not a good thing. Because I'm a child. The world is spinning. I've got to pee. And now I feel like I want to fucking puke too at the same time. Now, I don't know how this is going to work out. Trying to pee and puke at the same time. So I go into the washroom and I managed to go pee first and flush that. And the world is still spinning. And now I've got to puke. So I get down on my hands and knees in front of that toilet, lift the lids up, decide to go puke my guts out. And I start ralphing everything for like, including my lower intestine, spine, spleen, jejunum, all of it. If it's in me, it's coming out of me. And in the process of doing so, my uncle comes and he checks on me. You all right, little dude? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And then the toilet seat comes down on the back of my neck. So my head is literally in the toilet as a child. The seat comes down on the back of my neck and my arm goes over that. So I've literally locked myself in to the toilet because I'm too fucking wasted to figure out how to move my arm, to get the seat off, to get my head out. It's definitely one of the first times that I regretted anything so badly in my life. Wouldn't be the last time. It was definitely one of the first times. But I still thought to myself, I'm okay. It's just going to puke this up, go to sleep, I've seen it. I've seen what drunk people look like. You know what I mean? Come from a very young family. There's parties going on. Hell, my mom would throw parties at our house, and I'd wake up in the morning on the fucking Sunday morning and have to climb over bodies that just passed out on the floor just so I could go get some cereal in the morning. My super awesome powdered milk. Yeah, right? Powdered milk and carob. Fuck my life. So I knew that I was going to be fine. So my uncle says, well, your mom's going to be home soon. We got to fucking get you got to get you home. I was like, yep, you're right. So I was done puking at this point, I thought. We hop in the car. He goes to take me home. Puke 2 more times on the way home because nothing says, fun times like now getting into a vehicle when you feel like that. And my uncle's laughing the entire time. And we make it home. And I just go right into bed, climb right into bed. Now, my mom comes home. She gets off work. She gets off work at 5. She's home by about 6-ish or whatever. And she walks in, and my Uncle David is sitting on the couch, by himself. And my mom says to him, where's Chris? Because Justin was still at somebody else's plane. Where's Chris at? Oh, he's in bed. It's fucking 6 o'clock at night. We're got to eat dinner soon. What the fuck is he in bed for? And this would have been the perfect time for my uncle to, have my back again. But he thought it'd be much more funny if he told his oldest sister exactly what her son did. And so when my mom asks, where's Chris? Oh, he's in bed. Well, why is he in bed? Oh, he drank a lot today. For fuck's sakes. Well, that sent my mom over the fucking edge. And she was like, oh, yeah? And she comes into the room. She opens up the door. And I'm kind of coherent, but I'm not coherent. I'm laying in bed just regretting my life. And I've got a can next to the bed. And everything's still spinning. I just fucking get it off. Get me off of this world. I don't like this ride anymore. Get me out of here. And my mom says to me, first of all, she says, fucking stinks in here. I'm like, well, yeah, it probably smells like child and puke and booze. Ugh, it's the worst. Male child at that. So it's got its own awful, disgusting fucking smell. It's called puberty, I guess. She says, stinks in here. How many drinks did you have? And I proceed to hold up 4 fingers and tell her, 2. Well, now she knows I'm fucking lying. I mean, she knew that to begin with. And she probably thinks I'm extra stupid because, I don't know how to do math anymore. And so she says, okay, and walks out of the room. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm laying there, like, that's it? No more? That's all? All right. And she comes back in a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Seemed like 10 seconds to me. I don't know. And she's got this giant pitcher of ice water. And yeah, she didn't bring that in for me to like, you've got your garbage can. Here's some ice water in a glass. You're probably going to get dehydrated through the night. Make sure you drink some of this stuff. No. That is not why she showed up with this fucking pitcher of ice water. She showed up with the pitcher of ice water and dumped it on my head in my bed. Like just right all over me. I'm like fucking half out of it. Now I'm drowning in my bed. But I'm so wasted and so hot and sweaty and just like, that feeling that you get when you get that wasted, that I decided to not say anything about it and, freak out, jump up, you get ice water poured on, you're like, what the fuck? I just laid there. And she says to me, she goes, if you even think about getting out of that bed, I will beat you like a redheaded stepchild. There's also another fun phrase that my mom liked to use. So she's selling me to gypsies, beating me like a redheaded stepchild, which, you know, poor ginger kids. Whew, what'd they ever do? Except be soulless. And so here I am laying face down in 2 liters of ice water on my bed. And it was the greatest feeling I've ever had up to that point in my life. I woke up the next morning. I walk into my mom's room. She's like, "How you feeling?" I look at her. I said, "Thank you." She's like, "What?" I go, "Thank you." "What do you mean?" I go, "I feel great. I have no hangover. I don't have a headache. I see you guys, you know, the next day after some of your parties that you have here, and you all look like you hate yourselves for the choices you made the night before. And I feel pretty good, Ma. So thank you for the ice water that you just made me swim in." I don't think the plan worked out so well for her, but karma definitely got me back on that one when, you know, you thought that your uncle, who was uber cool, had your back no matter what, just to find out that it was much more funny to him because I asked him, I'm like, "Why'd you fucking rat me out?" He's like, "Dude, your mom would have known for sure. And, you know, it's funny to see you that wasted at that young of an age. So you never know what can happen." Now, thank you all so much. We've gone a little over an hour so far here. Wow, that is insane. I want to thank you all for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. Hope it's been a lot of fun. You can see down here at the bottom, you can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousTID. You can follow me on Instagram at NotoriousTID, and you can follow me on YouTube right here where you are at TIDtalk. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Please tell your friends. It would make my day. Now, I hope y'all are having a fantastic Sunday. Like I said, I hope y'all got good plans to either go hang out with your families, hang out with your friends, hang out with your loved ones. Maybe you are hungover. Sleeping in ice water helps. Having a nice bath helps too. Next week, we're going to talk about me in the Boy Scouts. Next week, we're going to talk about how I got there, why I got there, and yet again, getting kicked out of a church. Not just the facility, I mean the congregation. The old "do not come back, do not show up around here, do not pass go, do not collect $200. That's going to be next week. Now, like I said, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to wrap this up. But tonight, we will be back here. We will be back here at 9 o'clock Eastern. What is that? 6 o'clock Pacific, to be more Pacific. And we do a little fun show around here called the Fake Off Show. And the Fake Off Show, for those of you that have not checked it out yet, is a lot of fun. It's basically a bunch of deep fakes. And we get really, really high. Really high. And then we have some laughs. For example, I'm just going to show this to you right here. A little bit of an idea of what it is that we will be showing tonight.
Say my name.
Detective John Kimball.
You're goddamn right.
So just to give you a little bit of an idea there. So if you're not doing anything and you want to have some good laughs and you want to see some fun stuff, we also have a surprise announcement going on tonight during that Fake Off show that will have to do with next week's show, that if you are part of this whole side of the internet world out there in this corner, on this side, whatever it is, you're going to want to tune in for this one. This is going to be a lot of fun. So once again, that is 9:00 Eastern time tonight, right here on my TIDtalks channel, or also on our @Mariwanderers channel. And of course, you can check me out on the Mariwanderers every Tuesday night. Once again, same channels. And of course, the flagship show of it all, The Godfathers of Podcasting, available on the Shuli Network, Thursdays at 8:00 on the Shuli Network as well. As well, you can check me out on the SNME Radio, or SNME Radio Network, where I have the Wayans Brothers and the Pre-Punch Parlay. And for those of you that did give it a listen or have been listening to some of the Wayans Brothers MMA show that I do, going forward, the next episode of the Wayans Brothers will be done like a video broadcast. It'll be done live, and it'll be done video, not just audio like we have been doing it for podcast purposes. We will be doing it just like this, just like my TIDtalks, just like Mariwanderers, just like the Fake Off show, just like the Godfathers of Podcasting and all of those other fun things. And that is a very fun show. If you don't know anything about MMA, hey, maybe you can learn something. And if you do, then please, by all means, I'd love to get you guys interacted with us and get your takes on some of the stuff that we talk about there. It's a lot of fun, and we are going to make it more interactive. That's why we're taking it to the video format. So once again, thank you all for joining me on this Sunday afternoon. I wish you all well. Please, on your way out, hit that share and share this thing on your Twitter, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it with all of your friends. Make copies, mail it out to your enemies. That's even better. Send it to your enemies. Force them to like it. It'll be great. Peace, love, prosperity, all those nice things I hope happen for you. And we will hopefully see you all next week and see you on later tonight. Take care.